What's up, everyone? It is Phillies Nation presented by BQ Basement Systems. It's Corey Simon and Pat Gallen here from the Fieldhouse Sports and Beer Hall. Now, so many things have gone wrong with the Philadelphia Phillies this year. It's hard to just choose one. It could be pitching, starting pitching. It could be the offense. It could be the defense. What is the biggest concern for you heading into 2015?
Okay, well, we all know that the Phillies have numerous moves to make with the starting rotation because the depth just is not there. But to me, the biggest issue here, if the Phillies want to be a contending team in 2015, is the offense. And when I say the offense, I'm not referring to one guy. I'm not referring to just Ryan Howard or just Dominic Brown. What I'm referring to is the entire middle of the Phillies order. The 3, 4, 5, 6 in the Phillies order, specifically the 3 and 4.
So Utley, Howard.
You got to include Chase Utley in that. I mean, that's something that nobody's really talked about this season. But since June 1st, Chase Utley is at 249 with a 349 slugging percentage, and he has 7 home runs in 99 games. Okay, so those are not the power numbers you have come to expect from a 3-hole hitter, a guy who used to be as productive as Chase Utley was. The first 2 months of the season, he was great.
Sure,
But these last couple months, he's been playing every day, and I don't know if maybe the knees have sapped him some of the power. The fact that he's played every day probably would have been a better idea for Ryne Sandberg to get him some more time off. But when I look at that 3-4, the National League average for a 3-hole hitter is a 461 slugging percentage, which is 53 points higher than what Chase Utley's at, okay? The batting average, the league average for an NL 3-hole hitter, 12 points higher. So not getting the production there. From the cleanup spot, yes, the Phillies have gotten the home runs, 24 homers out of that spot, but they haven't gotten much else. So when you combine all of those things at 3, 4, 5, 6, you see why this offense has failed to score runs despite okay numbers from individuals.
We've talked so much about Ryan Howard all season. It seems blasphemous to add Chase Utley into that, but you're right about it. I mean, he just hasn't produced after those first 2 months. We talked about him, it seems, at length for those full 2 months, and then it's just been a precipitous decline since.
Right, and I don't put Utley in the same category as Howard. I think Howard's struggles have obviously been much more pronounced. The point is, though, is that you're not getting what you need from those particular spots. Say you get Ben Revere or Jimmy Rollins on base. Chase Utley being the hitter he is, not the power hitter anymore. Say he gets a single to make it first and third. Well, then you have Ryan Howard and Marlon Byrd following, who both strike out a ton. Howard and Byrd both have pretty low on-base percentages. There just needs to be a power hitter plopped into the middle of all that. And if the Phillies can find that guy to bat fourth, maybe they can contend next season. Maybe they can get to 87 or 88 wins.
Well, that was going to be my question. How do you fix the 3, 4, 5? Because Utley's going to be back. Unknown as to what's going to happen with Ryan Howard. It seems like he is going to be back. Marlon Byrd, he'll be back as well. So where do you fix this problem? How do you fix this problem?
Well, first off, I wouldn't be 100% sure that Ryan Howard will be back because, look, Ruben Amaro has said over the last couple months there will be significant changes coming to the Phillies. They know they need to improve their offense. There aren't a whole lot of spots they can upgrade at. First base and left field stick out the most. So if the Phillies can somehow figure out a solution with Howard, trade him to an AL team, pick up most of the salary, figure out some kind of platoon place there. The problem is this free agent market is not conducive to what the Phillies need. Okay, we've talked about Yasmani Tomas here in recent weeks, the Cuban left field prospect who has a lot of power. He's just 23 years old. By all accounts, has more power than a Rusney Castillo, a guy that you might be able to get for like $80 million, somewhere in that range, who could come in and maybe provide you, best case scenario, what Jose Abreu has done for the White Sox, kind of turning around that offense. The problem is there's very little after Yasmani Tomas.
If they don't pick up Yasmani Tomas, then what are the alternatives? Because as we've talked about here, it seems like the last 2 months or so, the free agent market, there's just no one out there. I mean, you get lucky with guys like Nelson Cruz, who the Orioles sign, and he helps propel you to the playoffs, but it's very rare that that happens in this day and age in the free agent market.
Sure, and if you want that power, the guys that you're looking at are all guys that have flaws. Victor Martinez having a career year, but he's 35 years old without a position.
He's more of a DH.
Pablo Sandoval on the younger side of these free agents, but there's concerns with his weight, and there's also concerns with the Phillies that he would be blocking Maikel Franco and Cody Ashley, two of the guys that you're hoping to develop over the next couple years. Mike Morse, same deal there, where how much of an upgrade is he really in left field or at first base? It's not a great list. It really isn't a great list for what the Phillies need this offseason. That's why I wonder how they realistically think this can be turned around in 1 year to the point where they could win in the mid-80s.
One guy that has performed well all season long, and it's been overshadowed by the troubles that the Phillies have gone through, is of course Cole Hamels. 4th in the National League through Sunday in ERA, 3rd in the National League among pitchers in WAR. 2008, he was a catalyst for them winning the title. Is this a better season than 2008?
Oh, by far. I mean, we're talking regular season, yes.
Yeah, but he helped win them the championship.
Right, so I mean, in terms of like full value, yes, 2008 was still the standout year for Cole Hamels, but this has been next level. Okay, this has been Cole Hamels getting to the next level of his career, a 2.03 ERA, over his last 25 starts. That's ridiculous. 173 strikeouts in 173 innings. His season this year is reminding me of like Felix Hernandez all those years out in Seattle, where every game, 7 innings, 1 or 2 runs, no win. The Phillies are 15-10 over those last 25 starts, despite Hamels having that 2 ERA.
One of the great giveaways this year for the Philadelphia Phillies was the Len Epstein Phillie Phanatic magazine, along with the Fanatic's best friend, that's Tom Burgoyne. We got a chance to meet up with Len Epstein. Here it is.
Plenty of people would call him the best mascot in sports, but if you also agree he's the best mascot on paper, you've got this man to thank.
Phillie Phanatic is unique. You don't see it anywhere else. Even, I think it was San Diego Chicken was the first. And it doesn't compare. It doesn't compare.
Len Epstein has been the pen behind the illustrations of the Phillie Phanatic for almost 30 years.
Sometimes the people down there say, you guys are forgetting we're in business for baseball, not the Fanatic. I didn't know that. I thought it was all the Fanatic. You know, we get so carried away with our projects and ideas.
Those projects and ideas have turned into 12 children's books. And this year, Len's illustrations are being celebrated in a very special way.
The beautiful part, when the 12th book came out this year, they came up with the idea of tying it in to do 12 covers for 12 unique bobbleheads, and that's how they came about. So they took each cover and created bobbleheads, and they'll produce one a month. And we're on our 3rd one. The 4th one will be coming out.
Drawing the 6'6" feathery green Galapagos Island native is not exactly something you'd pick up in art school.
It was a challenge, but I had been doing work for Sesame Street, so I was accustomed to doing those characters. And he's sort of like a big bird, you know, if you really look at it closely, the neck, elongated neck. And it just working over and over and over and following him, and I literally see the character in front of me when I start my sketches.
And when your career consists of drawing cartoons of Philadelphia's most beloved creature, you don't ever really have to grow up.
The fun I always have, that I've been doing since book 1, somewhere in the sketches when I send them down, I send the whole book to them. And every page, every once in a while, will show the Fanatic with a martini in his hand and a cigar. You know, the first time I did it, they flipped. You know, they had all these cigar ashes, and when they jumped at me, you know, what's going on? I said, how about a new image for the Fanatic? Let's get with it. Now I do it and I throw it and they look for it. And he goes, there goes Epstein again, you know. But it's now become a routine that I throw them when they're doing something with the cigar and the martini, and I come up with the same stupid answer. Time for a new image.
Len's illustrations help tell the stories of the Fanatic's adventures off the field, just like this new one, the Phillie Phanatic's one-man band. And you can get this and all his other books, as well as all those bobbleheads you saw right here at the Majestic Clubhouse store at Citizens Bank Park. For Phillies Nation, I'm Rudy Mezzi.
Sports Vault Access, the leader in unique sports memorabilia, has commissioned a first-ever hand-signed photo to commemorate all 6 members of the Phillies' modern-era individual no-hit club. Halliday, Millwood, Greene, Mulholland, Wise, and Bunning together as never before in a spectacular framed piece. This official MLB-licensed photo will be limited to just 100 inscribed pieces. This is an unprecedented piece of memorabilia for the serious Phillies fan or collector. Brought to you by Sports Vault Access, Beyond the Game.
Our customers tell us it's important that they know who they're doing business with. Basement foundation issues are never fun, and finding a contractor that you can trust can be hard. That's why I founded BQ Basement Systems in 1997. We're the experts in identifying and fixing problems in your basement, your crawl space, foundation repairs, and all things basementing. Have one of our certified inspectors out for your free evaluation and estimate. Visit us at bqbasementsystems.com or call us at 1-800-339-2070.
Live sports, craft beer, great food, good times. What more do you need? Every day is a party at Fieldhouse Sports and Beer Hall, the largest sports bar in Center City. Come to 11th and Filbert to see what you've been missing.
We're very excited to implement a program called 8 Weeks to Wellness. At Summit Spine and Wellness, we combine chiropractic care, massage therapy, customized nutrition, personal training, and meditation. If you want to improve your health, take the 8 Week to Wellness challenge like Dan. who lost 32 pounds, 6 inches off his waist, and 94 points off his cholesterol. We use a customized wellness score to measure your health and develop a diet and fitness plan just for you. Call our office at 215-487-2500 and ask about getting set up for your wellness score.
Welcome back to Phillies Nation. A common injury that occurs in Major League Baseball is in the back, and reigning MVP of the National League, Andrew McCutchen, had a serious back injury earlier this year, and while he came back from it strong, it could have derailed his season along with the Pirates. So we asked Dr. Lenny Roberts of Summit Spine and Wellness Center about those types of ailments.
Recently, Pirates outfielder Andrew McCutchen had an avulsion fracture in his 11th rib, and here's how this is going to affect his game going forward. So here's the sternum and the clavicle in the front of the body, and the ribs come up and attach into here. So the bottom 2 ribs are called floating ribs, which are down here. So this is the 11th and the 12th rib. They don't wrap all the way around and attach in the front as the rest of the ribs do. So the small muscles in between those ribs are called the intercostal muscles, and that's potentially what he had pull on that and created an avulsion fracture by pulling and torquing on that as he goes through the mechanics of his swing. The getting hit by 95-mile-an-hour fastball is not something anybody wants to do and absorb that impact in any part of their body. Getting hit in that area the day before can cause that soft tissue to spasm and shorten, and when it's shortened and spasmed, it's not going to move properly, and then when he goes through and does his traditional swing, that's probably what pulled on him. Most people are aware that you have ribs in your front, so they know that the ribs are covering the chest and the heart. But those ribs wrap around and attach into the back, into the spine. So the rib cage, there's 12 different ribs that attach from the top of the spine down, going down into the bottom of the rib cage. The bottom 2 ribs are called floating ribs, so they don't actually attach into the front portion of the body, so they're only attaching in the back into the spine. And where he had the injury and the avulsion fracture is in the 11th rib, so it's towards the very bottom of the rib before his lower back. The sensitivity of just a small imbalance in musculature or having an injury such as recovering from an avulsion fracture is going to potentially change the dynamics of his swing, and every little bit counts obviously when someone's throwing 95 and higher, and you have to make split decisions that are the way that the body responds and adapts to things so rapidly that any little subtle difference in the swing can alter his mechanics and certainly change a ball that he would potentially hit out of the park to being a pop-up just from a very subtle change in the mechanics of the swing. So that's definitely a factor and something that he's going to need to make sure he's able to perform to be able to perform at a high level.
All right, let's go to a segment we like. It's called By the Numbers. It's brought to you by BQ Basement Systems. Call them today. They give you a free estimate on your house, and they have flexible payment options. Jimmy Rollins, not so durable this year, but for the duration of his career, unbelievably durable.
Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit for staying on the field as much as he does. Rollins, in fact, in 13 of his 15 seasons, he's played at least 137 games. In the history of the National League, there is no shortstop ever who has had more seasons with at least that many games.
None.
None. Jimmy Rollins tied with Ozzie Smith and Pee Wee Reese for 13 seasons at 137-plus games. Nobody else in the NL has ever done that more than Jimmy. That's staggering. I mean, it's staggering. It doesn't feel like it, but he really has been on the field a ton. And the other was with Ken Giles. I found this fascinating. Over the last 51 years, there have been 3 rookies in baseball who have had an ERA of 1.24 or lower, and at least 60 strikeouts. Ken Giles this year, Jonathan Papelbon, the last to do it in 2006, and then before that you have to go all the way back to Bob Veal in 1963.
Oh, the great Bob Veal.
The great Bob Veal. There's only been 4 pitchers ever, 1.24 ERA or lower, 60 strikeouts or higher. Ken Giles, one of them, Jonathan Papelbon, another.
The Phillies took on the Oakland A's recently, and the A's have just completely fallen out of things. It's unbelievable. I picked them to win the American League, and this is what they do to me. They're now 10.5 games through Sunday out of the American League West behind the LA Angels. They were just tied for first less than a month ago. What happened to the Oakland A's?
It's funny, too, because Billy Beane, when he made that trade for Jeff Samardzija, kept telling reporters, no, this is not about the playoffs. The Angels are right on our tail. Look what happened.
How about that? How about that? St. Louis, though, back in the playoffs once again. It's the 11th time since 2000 that the St. Louis Cardinals have clinched a playoff berth. What an incredible run for an incredible franchise.
And an incredible collapse by the Brewers, another team that just fell off the map.
Let's go to our fantasy baseball segment brought to you by DraftKings.com. You can join some of their fantasy football leagues and win real cash prizes. Now, we're done giving you players to pick up on your teams because most of these seasons are over. Let's give our Cy Young Award for guys that were sort of the bang for the buck type guys, not a guy that you, like Adam Wainwright or Clayton Kershaw, who you drafted early, but a guy that you kind of picked up or maybe drafted late?
Well, it's hard to get more bang for your buck than Corey Kluber gave you from the Indians. 16 wins, a 2.54 ERA, 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he was drafted after guys like CC Sabathia, Tim Lincecum. So if you drafted him late, you probably won your league or at least made the playoffs.
All right, I'm going with Tanner Roark of the Washington Nationals. 14-10 this year with an ERA below 3. Another guy that you just picked up, and you actually talked about him, what, back in maybe early May or so?
Had a little bit of foresight.
Hope you listened to Corey Seidman right there. Don't go anywhere. Phillies Nation continues right after this.
Our customers tell us it's important that they know who they're doing business with. Basement foundation issues are never fun, and finding a contractor that you can trust can be hard. That's why I founded BQ Basement Systems in 1997. We're the experts in identifying and fixing problems in your basement, your crawl space, foundation repairs, and all things basementing. Have one of our certified inspectors out for your free evaluation and estimate. Visit us at bqbasementsystems.com or call us at 1-800-339-2070.
We're very excited to implement a program called 8 Weeks to Wellness. At Summit Spine and Wellness, we combine chiropractic care, massage therapy, customized nutrition, personal training, and meditation. If you want to improve your health, take the 8 Week to Wellness Challenge like Dan, who lost 32 pounds, 6 inches off his waist, and 94 points off his cholesterol. We use a customized wellness score to measure your health and develop a diet and fitness plan just for you. Call our office at 215-487-2500 and ask about getting set up for your wellness score.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
Okay, so you've worked with guys at all different levels, whether it's, major leaguers or some of the under 18 guys that you went out and you won it all last year. Congratulations on that.
Thank you, thank you. They did all the work. I just got the plane ticket.
But so when you're working with a guy who's 17 years old as opposed to maybe an established major leaguer, and you see all the time in baseball that when a team is struggling offensively, usually the hitting coach is the scapegoat, and usually the hitting coach will get canned. When something like that changes at the highest level, does it actually result in a bona fide change in approach for some of these players? Or, I mean, how does that really come to play?
For me personally, it's, I always say that hitting coaches, or any coach in that matter, are hired to be fired, so to speak. Coaches coach, players play. You've heard that before as well. Where, I don't think it's a big deal where if the coach gets fired, I don't think it's an overhaul just like, oh my God, they're hitting now because they've got a new coach in play. No, they know what to do. In fact, most players, if they really get attached to a coach and he gets fired, they'll feel bad because they know that he got fired not because he wasn't working hard, not because he wasn't providing them quality information, because they weren't performing on the field. Now the front office is not going to fire 13 hitters and 25 guys on a roster. They're not going to do that. So what happens is hitting coaches, pitching coaches, managers, they get the scapegoat. So to answer your question, for me, it's, I don't think it's a huge factor. It's more of a wake-up call. The hitters themselves have to say, you know what, that guy got canned. That's his livelihood. That's how he makes money. And I'm still here. Well, you know what? I gotta step up my game. So whoever comes in next, they have good quality information to provide, I'm sure, absolutely. But at the end of the day, I think it's more of a wake-up call to that player.
Okay, so we talked about when a guy's struggling, if it's better to work with him in season or after season. How about when a guy's going really well? When he's hitting really well, when the stats are there, when the numbers are there, but the swing, all the mechanics aren't there. I mean, when you see something like that, is it cool to go in and talk to a guy then, or you don't want to mess up his groove?
Absolutely don't want to mess with that guy. You almost let him run out his time. If he's going really good and like you said, the mechanics quite aren't there, hey, it doesn't have to look good to necessarily be good. Hunter Pence is a great example.
Yes, he is.
But at the same time, I'll let him run his course. And then when he kind of scuffles, then he'll be more receptive to me saying, you know what, I'll suggest, yeah, maybe clean that up a little bit. A lot of that is you got to make sure that your guy is receptive to when you talk to him. And a lot of guys, power coach I call. They see something, they want to pounce on it right away and try to correct it. Where their heart's in the right place, I don't think their mind's really working as much. Say, hey, you know what? I need some feel with this situation, like you said. He's going good, but maybe I'll save that thought for reserve time when he's going a little bit bad.
Welcome back to Phillies Nation. I'm Ryan Williams and I'm here with Pat and Corey. And it's time for our Batters Inbox questions. The boys are tied and we're winding down on the season. Who's going to win?
I'm going to win. Starting now. Let's go.
All right. Our first question, how would you handle the Jonathan Papelbon situation? Corey?
I would keep him because you're not going to get full value for him if you trade him. And if you keep Jonathan Papelbon, at least you can tell yourself that heading into 2015, you have one area on your team where you're very strong. That would be the back end of the bullpen with Jonathan Papelbon, with Ken Giles, with Jake Diekman. Unless you were to get full value for Papelbon, it wouldn't make any sense to trade him. And after what happened recently with the fans in Philadelphia, I think that plummeted his trade value even further.
I would tell him that he's no longer the closer. It's now Ken Giles' job. And then basically just go from there. I know it's a tricky situation, and like you said, he has pitched really well this year, but he's fallen out of favor with the fan base. And then on top of that, the situation becomes tricky because he's going to make a lot of money with the option year. But on top of that, if you tell him that he's no longer the closer, that might be grounds for a grievance with the union, and he might be upset about that. So if that comes into play and Jonathan Papelbon gets upset because they have removed him as closer, I can see this being more than just a Phillies type issue. But I think the right move is to make Ken Giles the closer, and then whatever chips may fall, you go from there.
Well, I'm going to go Corey on this one. Sorry.
All right, fine.
Our next question comes from a Phillies fan.
Hey guys, this is Molly from York, PA, and Molly wants to know,
what off-season move has proved to pay off the most?
I'm going to go with, of the Chicago White Sox, the first baseman, Jose Abreu. Top 10 in the American League in home runs, batting average, and RBI. They threw a lot of money at him. 6 years, $68 million this year. But he has proven to be very much worth that money, and now it makes the Cuban market so interesting. And we talked earlier in the show about the Phillies being interested in Yasmani Tomas. We'll see if they are, because of that Cuban market, big time players could be coming out of there.
Yeah, that was a great signing. I think Jose Abreu's been the Rookie of the Year in the AL, arguably the MVP in the AL as well. But I'm going to go with Nelson Cruz, and the only reason I'll say that is A, because you took Jose Abreu, you went first, and B, because Nelson Cruz was significantly less expensive. It was a one-year deal between $8 and $10 million. Nelson Cruz now will get 50 to 60 million plus in the free agent market, but he's coming off a PED bust. He's had a great year for the Baltimore Orioles. Sure has.
You won this argument.
All right, nice. I thought I would.
Our last question. What role should Grady Sizemore have with the Phillies next year? Corey?
I would bring Grady Sizemore back, okay? I would bring him back on like a one-year deal worth maybe $2 to $2.5 million with some incentives that could make it double that. But he has played very well this season in every role the Phillies have played him in, whether he's playing left field or right field or pinch hitting. I think he could be a very good bat off the bench, and that's one area the Phillies have really struggled in recent years, is putting together a major league caliber bench. I think Sizemore could do that, and in a pinch, he could come in and play some everyday outfield for you.
All right, I disagree that they should bring him back, and not because he hasn't done everything that we hoped he could do with the Phillies, but because they need to get these younger players at bats. They can't keep clogging up 300, 400 at bats per season with a guy who's 31 years old. When there are still players on this roster and in the minor leagues, they need to figure out who they are. So Grady Sizemore, I think he should be looking for a contending team. If he's the fourth or fifth outfielder on a contender, maybe he can steal a World Series ring. But if I'm the Phillies, I would let him go.
You're going to win this week.
All right. So what's that mean?
Sorry.
I'm up one?
That means I need to sweep next week to win.
Is that right?
Yes, it does. It does.
Is that right?
It all comes down to this.
How about that?
The big Phillies Nation cliffhanger.
Well, that wraps up our Batters in Box questions for this week. We want to hear what you have to say, so leave it for us on our Facebook and Twitter page. More Phillies news is coming right up. Philly has a long sports history filled with great players and moments. Shibe Vintage Sports in Center City relives the glory years with fashionable attire for all your favorite teams. Separate yourself from the crowd with the hippest Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers gear. Pick up some unique shirts featuring local teams of yesteryear, or come to fun events where you can learn about your favorite teams. So if you're a sports fan, then you need to check out Shibe Vintage Sports. Visit them at 13th and Walnut or shibesports.com.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
At Village Catering, we're committed to making your event one to remember. We are family owned and operated, and for more than 30 years, we've made our mark on Philadelphia as a go-to caterer for all of your special events. We're also the official caterer of the Flyers and Soul and the preferred caterer of Temple Athletics. We will work with you at customizing your off-site event, or you can have your event at our on-site facility, the Cottage Greene, so that you'll feel like a guest at your own party. Contact us at 215-698-1117 or villagecatering.com and we'll help you make a memory today.
Phillies Nation is presented by BQ Basement Systems, the Philadelphia region's premier basement contractor.
Hi, I'm Tommy Greene. Today we're going to talk about somebody very special to the Philadelphia community, Harry Callis, God bless him, and what he meant to the Phillies, and I know what he meant to me. When I played with the Phillies back in the day, he used to travel with us, and I was fortunate enough to spend a little bit of time with him, and we always had something going on the plane, play a little cards, some of the guys would be, and he'd be involved in a little bit of that every now and then. But the biggest thing, he'd sit back there with me and Larry Anderson and David West, and we talked ball. Some of the guys he'd seen play coming through, and it was, you know, one of those shut up and listen moments which every young player should do because they don't know it all. You learn about the game, the history of the game. He was a very vital, to me, important part of that team, not just his voice. He was one of the guys. I loved him back there at the back with us. I know some guys are pretty peculiar about it in current teams and stuff like that, but he was part of our team, and we enjoyed him back there.
I think it's just a matter of letting the ball get a little deeper or hitting it up front. I was always a guy who was a home run swinger. I didn't care if I made contact or not. I wanted to try to hit home runs, and for me, what I wanted to do was you try to let the ball get deep in the zone, and that doesn't mean getting back in here. A lot of guys will hit the ball up front. You try to let it get halfway back at the home plate. So when I get in my stance, I'm looking for an area which is my strength, which would be in the happy zone. That's where I enjoyed hitting the fastball, which didn't mean I could not hit the fastball here, but proper technique is you have to get there. And what you need to do is you need to rely on your hips. So when the ball's coming back, I stay here. If you look at my right side, it's staying locked in. It doesn't do this. So it stays in here. Now the point of contact's here. And what I like to teach is finishing high, which means your bat will go through the zone, longer, 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 and stay high. And what it does is it gives you a better backspin. So for me, I had one swing.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Matt. Actually, this weekend at Valley Forge Casino, you can meet Tommy Greene along with 4 other Phillies pitchers who have previously thrown no-hitters.
Oh, that's awesome.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to our Twitter trivia. The hashtag is PNTrivia at Phillies Nation. It's brought to you by Shibe Vintage Sports. This week's question is this. Carlos Ruiz caught the combined no-hitter by the Philadelphia Phillies. That made for 3. That's 3 for Chooch in his career. Name the only catcher in Major League history to catch more. Do you know who that is?
Was it that elite game caller Rod Barajas?
It is not Rod Barajas, although I miss that guy, don't you?
Yeah, it's great.
No,
Great behind the plate.
I really don't.
And in the room.
I really don't miss Rod Barajas. That's it for us here on Phillies Nation. To everyone involved in the show, the guys behind the camera 2020, thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Corey. I'm Pat Gallen. We'll talk to you next time right here on PNTV.